The red light on the communication console blinked like a dying heartbeat. Commander Ji-Ho Kim stared at it, knowing that each flash represented another human life lost in the darkness between the stars. The signal had traveled for 3 weeks. Across the void, carrying the final words of Kepler Mining Station, he pressed the replay button for the 4th time today. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the haggard face of Station Commander Park. Behind him, emergency lights cast eerie shadows on the metal walls. The sound of distant explosions mixed with screams. Day 12 of the attack. Park's voice cracked with exhaustion. The creatures, they don't just kill us. They watch us die. They study how we react to pain, to fear. I've seen them take prisoners. And ... double quotes, the transmission cut to static for several seconds. When Park's image returned, his left arm was gone. Blood stained his uniform, but his eyes still burned with determination. We tried everything. Plasma cannons barely scratched there. Ships, our best fighters lasted maybe 10 minutes against their smallest scouts. But that's not what scares me most. The camera shook as another explosion rocked the station. They're learning from us. Each attack gets smarter. They know our weaknesses now. They know how we think, how we fight, how we die. And they're moving. Toward the inner colonies? Earth needs to know. Admiral Hejin Yoon walked into the command center as the message continued. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her uniform bore the scars of 40 years of military service. She had seen humanity's first contact with alien life, had fought in the border wars with the Zephyrian Collective, and had negotiated the peace treaties that brought humans into the Galactic Council. We sent emergency requests to our allies. Park continued on the recording. The Altarians said they were reviewing the situation. The Centauri Union told us we were outside their protection zone. The Vorthan Empire hasn't even responded to our calls. Lieutenant Soyoung Lee looked up from her console. Ma'am, we've received 17 similar transmissions in the past month. Every human colony in the Outer Rim has gone silent. The pattern is always the same: distress calls, requests for help, then nothing. Admiral Yoon studied the star map displayed on the main screen. Red dots marked the dead colonies, forming a rough line pointing directly toward Earth's inner territories. Each represented thousands of human lives. What about the Galactic Council? She asked. Communications Officer Taemin Choi cleared his throat nervously. The Council voted to establish a containment zone around the affected area. They've banned all ships from entering. They say it's too dangerous to risk a rescue mission. The recording, Park's voice grew weaker. The things that hunt us... They call themselves devourers. I've seen what they do to our people. They don't just want to kill us. They want to understand us completely before they destroy us. They're treating us like ... like lab rats. The station shook again, and this time the lights went out completely. Park's face was lit only by the glow of his emergency communicator. If anyone receives this message, tell Earth that we held the line as long as we could. Tell them the Devourers are coming, and they're not like anything we've faced before. They adapt, they learn, and they never stop hunting. The sound of breaking metal filled the transmission. Park looked over his shoulder, then back at the camera. There through the blast doors. This is our final message. Tell our families... Recording ended in screams and static. The command center fell silent. Admiral Yoon had seen many battles, but something about this enemy felt different. The Devourers weren't just another hostile alien species. They were systematic, intelligent, and completely ruthless. Ma'am, Lieutenant Lee said quietly, we've analyzed the attack patterns. It's based on their current speed and direction. They'll reach the inner colonies within 6 months. Earth itself could be under attack within a year. Admiral Yoon nodded slowly. She had spent her career trying to prove that humanity belonged among the stars, that they could be trusted partners in the galactic community. Now, when human survival was at stake, their supposed allies had abandoned them. Send a message to all our diplomatic contacts, she ordered. One final request for military assistance. Over the next few hours, the responses came back. Each one was a polite refusal wrapped in diplomatic language. The Altarians were concerned about escalation. The Centauri Union was reassessing. Their defense priorities? The Zephyrian Collective simply didn't respond at all, as the last rejection arrived. Admiral Yoon made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Send word to Deep Mesa," she told Commander Kim. "Authorization code Omega-77. Tell them it's time to wake the Reapers." Kim's face went pale. Every senior officer knew about the Deep Mesa facility, though none spoke of it openly. It was humanity's darkest secret, a project that had been hidden from their alien allies since first contact. "Ma'am, are you sure? If the Council discovers what we've been developing..." Admiral Yoon looked at the star map again, at the spreading zone of silence where human voices had been forever stilled. "The Council abandoned us," she said quietly. "Now they'll learn why that was a mistake." The elevator descended deeper than any civilian would believe possible. Admiral Yoon watched the depth counter climb past 3 kilometers as they dropped through solid rock toward a facility that officially did not exist. The air grew colder with each passing level, and she could feel the weight of the desert pressing. Down above them, Dr. Yoon Ji-soo waited at the bottom, her white lab coat crisp and clean despite the underground location. But Admiral Yoon could see the soldier beneath the scientist. The way she stood, the way her eyes constantly scanned for threats, the small scar on her left hand from weapons training. This was not just a researcher. "The subjects are responding well to the wake-up process," Dr. Seo said as they walked through. Corridors that hummed with hidden machinery. "We began the revival sequence as soon as your codes arrived. Most will be conscious within 6 hours." The hallway was lined with thick glass windows. Behind each one lay a person floating in a tank filled with blue liquid. Cables and tubes connected to their bodies, monitoring every heartbeat, every brainwave. They looked peaceful, almost like they were simply sleeping. Admiral Yoon stopped. At the first window, the nameplate read Subject 001, Captain Jae-Sung Park. The man inside looked normal enough. Medium height, lean build, the kind of face you might see on any street corner. But she knew the truth about what lay beneath that ordinary appearance. "Tell me about the modifications," she said. Dr. Seo pulled up a holographic display showing Park's body and cross-section. "Physical changes are extensive, but hidden. Enhanced muscle density gives him 3 times normal human strength. Modified bone structure makes him nearly unbreakable. His reflexes are faster than any baseline human could achieve." She highlighted different areas as she spoke. "The nervous system has been completely rewired. He can process information at superhuman speeds. His senses can detect things that normal humans would miss completely. But those are just the basic improvements." Admiral Yoon studied the sleeping figure. "What about the psychological conditioning?" "That's where the real work was done." Dr. Esio's voice dropped lower. "We removed their ability to feel fear in combat situations, enhanced their capacity for strategic thinking under stress. Most importantly, we gave them the ability to understand alien psychology on an instinctive level." They moved to the next window. This one showed a young woman with short black hair. The nameplate read Subject 008, Sergeant Myung Kong. "She was a sniper before the program," Dr. Seo explained. "Now she can hit targets at ranges that should be impossible. Her enhanced vision can see across multiple light spectrums. She can remain motionless for days if necessary." Admiral Yoon had read the files, but seeing the subjects in person was different. These had been volunteers, soldiers who understood that humanity might need weapons that other species would consider monstrous. They walked deeper into the facility. The corridors branched off in multiple directions, each leading to different sections of the underground complex. Admiral Yoon caught glimpses through doorways of laboratories filled with equipment she didn't recognize. Workshops were strange. Weapons were being assembled. And training rooms that looked more like torture chambers. "How many facilities like this exist?" she asked. 7 on Earth, 3 on Mars, 2 in the asteroid belt. Dr. Seo checked her tablet. "Each one specializes in different aspects of the program. This facility focuses on infiltration and psychological warfare specialists." They stopped at a large window that looked into what appeared to be a surgical theater. Inside, medical robots were working on a subject who was already awake. The person on the table was conscious, but showed no sign of pain as the machines made final adjustments to implants in his skull. The neural interfaces are the most complex part, Dr. Seo explained. They allow the subjects to hack into alien computer systems directly through their thoughts. More importantly, they can broadcast psychological attacks that can drive entire enemy crews insane. Admiral Yoon watched the procedure with growing unease. The galactic community would consider this barbaric. The galactic community abandoned us to die, Dr. Essio replied coldly. These subjects volunteered to become monsters so that humanity might survive. They knew the cost. They entered the main laboratory where dozens of technicians worked on equipment that looked more like torture devices than military hardware. Weapons that could phase through most known defenses, armor that could adapt to any environment. Devices that could turn an enemy's own ship into a haunted nightmare. The psychological warfare tools are particularly effective, Dr. Seo said, picking up a device that looked like a simple black box. This can broadcast subliminal messages directly into alien brains, makes them to paranoia, makes them see threats that aren't there, turns them against each other. Admiral Yoon lifted the device, surprised by how light it was. Something so small could destroy the mental stability of an entire ship's crew. "Ma'am," called a technician from across the room. "Captain Park is fully conscious. He's requesting to speak with you." They walked to another section of the facility, where the awakened subjects were being prepared for deployment. Captain Park sat on the edge of a medical bed, fully dressed in black combat gear. He looked up as they approached, and Admiral Yoon felt a chill run down her spine. His eyes were different. Still human, but there was something else there now. Something that watched and calculated and planned. Something that other species would recognize as the gaze of a perfect predator. "Admiral," he said, his voice calm and measured, "I understand. We have work to do." The 12 human ships appeared at the edge of the Kepler system without warning. One moment the space was empty, the next moment they were there like shadows stepping out of darkness. Each ship was small compared to the massive alien vessels feeding on the remains of the mining station. But they carried something the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Jae-Soon Park floated in the launch bay of the stealth ship Silent Blade, checking his equipment one final time. His enhanced eyes could see details that would be invisible to normal humans. His modified brain processed tactical information faster than any computer. But most importantly, his altered mind understood something that other species had forgotten. Sometimes the best way to win a war was to make the enemy too scared to fight around him. His team made their final preparations. Sergeant Myung Kong ran diagnostics on her phase armor, technology that could make her walk through solid walls like a ghost. The armor's surface shifted and changed color, adapting to match whatever surrounded it. In a few minutes, she would be completely invisible to both the naked eye and most scanning equipment. Corporal Dongwoo Nam sat with his eyes closed, his neural implants connecting to alien communication frequencies. Streams of data flowed directly into his brain as he learned the language and thought patterns of their enemy. His enhanced mind absorbed information that would take normal humans years to understand. "Target analysis complete," reported Lieutenant Eugene Cho from the bridge. Her voice came through their neural link, a direct mind-to-mind connection that made them more like parts of a single organism than individual soldiers. 7 Devourer ships are positioned around the station ruins. They appear to be extracting something from the wreckage. Park's enhanced vision focused on the tactical display. The alien ships were unlike anything in human experience. They looked more grown than built, with surfaces that pulsed like living skin and energy patterns that resembled biological functions. Each vessel was 10 times larger than the biggest human warship, covered in what looked like armor made from living bone. "Intelligence reports were correct," Park said to his team through the neural link. "These things aren't just ships. They're alive. Part machine, part creature. They've used this combination to conquer 17 different civilizations." Data streams showed the terrible efficiency of the Devourers. Each species they had encountered had tried to fight them with conventional tactics, ship-to-ship combat, orbital bombardments, ground invasions. All had failed because they were fighting an enemy that learned from every battle, that adapted and evolved with each encounter. Every species they faced has made the same mistake, Park continued. They tried to beat the Devourers through superior technology or greater numbers. But the Devourers just study their tactics and find ways to counter them. Sergeant Kong's voice carried a note of satisfaction. Lucky for us, we're not planning to fight fair. The human approach was different. Instead of attacking the alien ships directly, they would do something that no other species had attempted. They would turn the Devourers' greatest strength, their ability to learn and adapt, into their greatest weakness. Phase 1 begins now, Park announced. Remember, we're not trying to destroy these ships. We're trying to make them afraid of their own shadows. Launch bays opened silently, and the Reaper teams deployed into space. Their suits were equipped with technology that made them nearly undetectable. Stolen alien cloaking devices had been improved with human engineering, creating soldiers who could move through enemy territory like living nightmares. Park drifted toward the largest Devourer vessel, his suit's systems automatically adjusting to match the cosmic background radiation. To any scanning equipment, he would appear to be nothing more than space dust. His enhanced body required no bulky life. Support systems, the modifications allowed him to survive in vacuum for hours. The surface of the alien ship felt warm under his gloved hands, like touching the skin of some massive creature. Snurl. Interface immediately began analyzing the ship's structure, finding weak points and access routes that normal humans would never discover. He found an airlock that pulsed with organic rhythm, and used his phase technology to walk directly through the sealed door. Inside, the ship was even more disturbing than intelligence reports had suggested. The corridors looked like the inside of some vast organism, with walls that breathed and floors that felt soft under his feet. His first target was a Devourer engineer working at what appeared to be a control station. The alien was massive, standing 3 meters tall with multiple arms and skin that looked like living armor. According to the intelligence files, these creatures were apex predators on their home world. Beings that had never known fear. Park didn't attack the creature. Instead, he used his neural interface to hack into the alien's cybernetic implants, planting subliminal messages directly into its brain. The messages were in the creature's own language, whispers that spoke of death and judgment, of hunters in the darkness that could not be seen or stopped. The engineer continued working, unaware that its mind had been invaded. But Park could see the subtle changes beginning, the way it occasionally looked over its shoulder at empty corridors, the slight tremor in its movements that spoke of growing unease across the ship. His team performed similar operations. They disabled security systems and replaced the recorded feeds with footage of empty corridors where shadows moved in impossible ways. They planted devices that would emit sounds just below the threshold of alien hearing whispers and footsteps. That would make the crew constantly feel like they were being watched. The psychological warfare had begun. The fear spread like a disease through the Devourer fleet. What had started as isolated incidents on a few ships quickly became fleet-wide panic as reports flooded in from across their territory. Ship commanders who had never experienced doubt began questioning every shadow, every sound, every moment. Of silence, Captain Jae-Sung Park stood in the command center of the human ship Retribution, watching intercepted alien communications with cold satisfaction. The large screens around him displayed data streams from dozens of Devourer vessels, and each report told the same story, an enemy that was slowly going insane. A report from the Kepler system announced Lieutenant Eugen Cho, reading from her console. Devourer Command Ship 7 has lost contact with 3 of its engineering teams. Security found them in a sealed maintenance chamber, arranged in a circle with symbols carved into the walls. Park's enhanced memory recalled the exact symbols his team had left behind. Ancient human warnings written in the Devourer's own language, messages that spoke of judgment coming for those who consumed the innocent. Additional report from the Centauri sector, Cho continued. Devourer Fleet Command is requesting reinforcements. They claim their ships are being infiltrated by ghost warriors that cannot be detected or stopped. The psychological warfare was working better than anyone had dared hope. The Devourers, who had conquered 17 civilizations through overwhelming force, were discovering what it felt like to be hunted by an enemy they could not understand. Dr. Yoon Seo's voice came through the secure communication channel from Earth. We're monitoring their fleet movements from long-range sensors. Their formation discipline has completely broken down. Ships that used to move in perfect coordination are now clustering together like frightened animals. Admiral Haejin Yoon studied the tactical display showing Devourer fleet positions across several star systems. The organized battle formations that had swept across the galaxy were falling apart. Ships that should have been spread out for maximum tactical advantage were instead huddled together in defensive clusters. "What about their auxiliary forces?" the Admiral asked. "Mass desertions," Dr. Seo reported. "The smaller species that serve." As support crews are abandoning Devourer ships in huge numbers, they're claiming the vessels are haunted by human spirits that drive crew members insane. Park allowed himself a small smile. The truth was even more effective than any ghost story. His teams had planted psychological warfare devices throughout the Devourer fleet, equipment that could make crew members see things that weren't there, hear voices in empty corridors, and feel constantly watched by invisible enemies. "Show me the latest security footage," Park requested. The main screen displayed grainy images from inside a Devourer ship. The recording showed an empty corridor, but the ship's sensors detected movement where nothing could be seen. Suddenly, crew members appeared in the frame, running in panic from something that wasn't visible to the cameras. "This was recorded 2 hours ago," Cho explained. The crew reported seeing human soldiers moving through their ship like ghosts, leaving behind messages written in blood. The messages were always the same, written in perfect Devourer script. "We know where you sleep. We know what you fear. We are coming for you." Admiral Yoon leaned forward to study the footage more carefully. "How many ships have we actually destroyed in combat?" "None, ma'am," Park replied. "We haven't fired a single conventional weapon or engaged in direct ship-to-ship combat." The Admiral's weathered face showed satisfaction. "And yet their entire fleet structure is collapsing. Explain how this is possible." Park activated a holographic display showing the psychological profiles his teams had developed. The Devourers evolved as apex predators. Their entire species has never experienced being prey. They don't have the mental framework to handle fear, uncertainty, or the feeling of being hunted. He highlighted different sections of data as he spoke. Every other species they conquered tried to fight them with superior technology or greater numbers. But we're fighting them with something they've never encountered. Psychological warfare designed specifically to exploit their evolutionary weaknesses. The display showed brain scans from captured Devourer specimens. Their minds are breaking down under the stress of constant fear. They're experiencing nightmares for the first time in their species' history. Many are developing what humans would recognize as severe anxiety disorders. Dr. Seo's voice added more details from Earth. "We're detecting increased communication. Traffic between Devourer ships, but it's not tactical coordination. They're sharing reports of supernatural encounters, comparing stories of impossible sightings, trying to make sense of experiences that their minds can't process." Admiral Yoon studied the fleet movements again. 3 major Devourer battle groups had retreated from star systems they had been in the process of conquering. Ships that had never known defeat were fleeing from an enemy they couldn't see or touch. "Our next phase?" she asked. Park's enhanced features showed no emotion, but his voice carried the cold precision of a hunter closing in on wounded prey. "We escalate. Up until now, we've been letting them glimpse us in shadows, hear us in whispers. Phase 4 will show them exactly what they're dealing with." He activated another display showing the massive Devourer command ship, a vessel 10 times larger than anything in the human fleet. Their supreme commander is aboard the World Render. Intelligence suggests he's beginning to lose control of his forces as panic spreads through the fleet. "Your recommendation?" "We board the World Render directly, but this time we don't hide. We let them see us clearly. Let them understand that they are no longer the apex predators in this galaxy." The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. The humans were about to reveal themselves fully to an enemy that had learned to fear shadows. The massive Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark storm cloud blotting out the stars. Thousands of biomechanical ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Dropped out of hyperspace with the fury of a species driven to desperation. Their supreme commander had gathered every vessel, every warrior, every weapon for one final assault on the world that had dared to hunt the hunters. Admiral Heijin Yun stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Watching the enemy fleet on the main display, around her hundreds of technicians worked at their stations with calm efficiency. This moment had been planned for decades. Ever since humanity first learned they were not alone in the universe. Enemy fleet composition confirmed, reported Commander Ji-ho Kim. 17,000 vessels of various sizes. They're broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. The Admiral listened to the translated message. The Devourer, Supreme Commanders. Voice carried rage and terror in equal measure as he demanded that Earth surrender immediately or face complete destruction. But his words trembled with an emotion his species had never known before humans taught them fear. Response? Asked Kim. Admiral Uni smiled coldly. Send them our welcome message. Across the Devourer fleet, every screen suddenly lit up with the same image. Dozens of human faces appeared on their displays, each one showing the calm expression of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. When they spoke, it was in perfect Devourer language, their voices carrying across every communication channel. Welcome to our home, the humans said in unison. We have been waiting for you. The psychological warfare began immediately. Captain Jae Hung Park, leading the Reaper teams from his stealth ship, activated systems that had been hidden throughout Earth's solar system for years. What looked like empty space was actually filled with devices designed to turn the Devourer's own senses against them. Phase generators are active, Park reported through the neural link. Enemy fleet is receiving full-spectrum psychological bombardment. The Devourer ships, which had expected to face orbital defense platforms and conventional weapons, instead found themselves surrounded by nightmares made real. Their sensors detected thousands of human ships that appeared and vanished like ghosts. Their communication systems filled with whispers in their own language, speaking of death and judgment. Sergeant Yang Kong led her team in boarding actions that defied all logic. Using phase technology perfected in secret laboratories, the Reapers materialized inside Devourer ships like demons stepping out of darkness. They moved through solid walls, appeared in sealed chambers, and struck with precision that seemed supernatural. But the real weapon was not physical violence. It was terror. The humans had studied Devourer psychology for years, learning exactly how to break minds that had never known fear. They used the aliens' own biotechnology against them, making it appear that their ships were becoming infected with human consciousness, that their own vessels were turning against them. Enemy command structure is collapsing, reported Lieutenant Eugene Cho from her monitoring station. We're intercepting communications showing complete breakdown in fleet coordination. On the main display, Admiral Yoon watched as the orderly Devourer formation dissolved into chaos. Ships that should have been working together were instead firing on each other, convinced that their fleetmates had been taken over by human infiltrators. Corporal Dongwoo Nam, operating from inside the Devourer flagship, sent a report that made everyone in the command center pause. Supreme Commander is broadcasting on all channels. He's requesting immediate ceasefire and surrender negotiations. The translation came through clearly. The voice of the being who had personally overseen the destruction of 17 civilizations was breaking with panic as he begged for the psychological attacks to stop. Make them stop, his voice cracked across the communication channels. Make the voices stop. We surrender. We surrender completely. But Admiral Yoon had no intention of accepting surrender, not when the galaxy needed to understand what happened when humanity was abandoned to face extinction alone. Negative, she replied through the communication system. Let them run. Let them carry the story back to whoever will listen. The order was given, and the human forces began their final psychological assault. Every Devourer ship found itself surrounded by images of human soldiers who seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. Their own equipment turned against them, showing them horrors that their minds could not process. The retreat began within minutes. Ships that had never known defeat fled the solar system in complete panic, many colliding with each other in their desperation to escape. The Supreme Commander's flagship was among the first to run. Its biomechanical hull pulsing with what looked like terror. But the humans had prepared one final message. As the fleeing ships reached the edge of the solar system, hidden transmitters attached themselves to their hulls like parasites. These devices would follow them wherever they went, broadcasting the same message across all frequencies for years to come. "Tell the galaxy," the message said in every known language. "Humanity remembers who stood with us and who stood against us. Choose your next actions carefully." Within days, the story spread across civilized space. The species that other races had called primitive and barbaric had defeated the unstoppable devourers without firing a single conventional weapon, had turned warfare itself into something that the galaxy had never seen, a weapon that attacked the mind rather than the body. The Galactic Council, which had refused to help humanity in its darkest hour, suddenly found themselves facing a species that had evolved beyond their understanding of war. Earth had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a world that treated conflict not as a last resort, but as an art form perfected through thousands of years of practice.